Like many of us, I arrived to the guild with a very excited sense of creating and doing something, indulging in, an artistic side that, I had not, for many years, had not been able to, not really indulge in. And I found myself, yes, very excited to arrive to the guild and get to work and hang out with my classmates and meet some other new people and get to work on some creativity. And, well, as you guys know the story, we are all arrived and showed up and found that we would not be engaging in any of the facilities that existed on the property, which was very unfortunate. But thankfully, I had been entertaining a restoration project for quite some time, and I now had the time to get to work. I began by getting to work on a binder that I had held on to since I was a teenager and young adult. This binder was filled with drawings, doodles, poems, poetry combined with illustrations, and other attempts at different forms of art that I had engaged in while I was a teenager and very young adult. The binder was also filled with flash that I used as inspiration, in what I was trying to create. And somehow, some way, I actually managed to find some Turkish lira had made its way in there. I have no idea how that happened, but alas, it was there. Um, the restoration of the binder was actually pretty fun. Um, pretty much involved the process of just putting said creativity into new document protectors and into a new binder itself. And that would end up being the part. The hard part was actually reliving and revisiting and rereading, the things that I had written. And I came to realize then and there, this was a part of myself I had long since abandoned, um, especially during my early years of military service, where emotional processing like this was not particularly welcomed or encouraged, for that matter. And so I really had to sit there and hear the voice of my teenage, self, you know, coming out of the woodwork, 20 plus years later, and expressing everything that he was feeling at the time and even presently. And that was pretty difficult to do. Um, but alas, I did it. I'm still continuing to do it. But I would say the highlight on top of all that was realizing that a very, very critical voice was still very much alive. And I needed to address that critical voice and start being much, much, much more nicer to myself. And especially this young person, this young teenager, scribbled all over these pieces of paper, trying to understand and wrestle with complex emotions as a young man, a young adult. Upon completing, or should I say, restoring the binder, I, quickly got to work on trying to generate ideas of what my grand creative project should be. And I don't know how I arrived there, but I began thinking about, what would it look like, if we could enter into the sacred spaces, fellow students, members of our cohort, and see, what is behind, the Zoom camera, what is behind the monitor, what is behind the screen. Because, it's generally on the Zoom squares, all we see is just, the background. What is seen is what we want people to see. We don't see what's in front of them. There's something missing. There's an element that is not known. Or Lacanian, as Dr. Hord would say, the elusive other, something that is hidden but elusive. For me, I began, viewing this project as okay. I have these black shelves that are behind me filled with, little trinkets and doodads that I've acquired over the years by via gifts or, I picked up at some souvenir shop while I was spending time abroad, what have you. No, please don't get me wrong. Like these items and, you know, gadgets, they have, happy and good memories for me. But at the day, they are just items. If they disappeared today, I would survive. I would move on. Life would continue. And so I began looking at this wall that was bare at the time and started wondering, what I should put on it. Because I spend a lot of time in this office. Either I spend a lot of time in here via, meeting Zoom, or I'm typing, all of the papers, that we got to work on. I spend a lot of time here, and I spend a lot of time facing in this direction. I spend very little to no time, turning around in my chair and looking, at my four shelves, and the things that I have put on it. So I started thinking to myself, what do I want to look at? What do I want to see? Um, what do I need to be reminded of, while I'm here at school, struggling through the pitfalls that is APA in Chicago. So initially, so the first thing was easy. I consolidated all the drawings that my kids given me, and I put my daughter's drawings to the left, and I put my son's to the right, and in the center, I have a Viking compass drawn by a very good friend of mine, and I have a very encouraging note given to me by my wife. But what to do with these darn windows? These 24 by 24 windows insist on blinding the ever living crap out of me, while the sun is high in the sky. And then that's where I went back to the restoration of the binder. This is where I started considering maybe I could be representative of. I get pardon me. Better yet, maybe I can find something that can be indicative of the softer, more gentler side of me that I attempted to discard while serving in the military, versus the personality and sense of being that I adopted while I was in, and for lack of a better word, assumed while I was still engaged in while I was engaged in protective services outside of the military. And so I started, brainstorming with that, thinking about, what I want, what I want up here, what imagery captures that best idea. So on the left, you will see is a picture of the characters from Ori Will o' the Wisps. Is the second of two games. Um, if you are a video gamer, you'll know that you'll know that this is a pretty fun game, and a lot of fun to play. And if you're not a gamer, I would encourage you to play it anyways. Get the game, set it to easy, and just get through it, just so you can witness the story that takes place. Because I believe it's definitely one of the more well done and touching stories that are out there in the video game world. My second, what is important to me regarding this, the Ori picture, is you have this group of characters who are essentially just not related to each other whatsoever, who have come from different bits and places with different forms of life, and who have formed, this community where they live harmoniously with one another. Um, have, in a sense, kind of adopted each other and become this strange and unusual but happy family, which I find very beautiful. My second photo I would put would be to the right. Um, it took a long time to find it, but I thought it was pretty cool because it's like a combination of like two warriors I think are pretty badass. It's a hybrid between a Crusader and a Jedi Knight, which I thought was pretty cool. The important thing in this picture, more than the aesthetic, is that our warrior here is his posture. It's his stance. It was very important to me to find something that was not showing, an act of aggression or attack or offense. I wanted to find something that reflects someone who waits quietly, but is yet still formidable. So once I got these images up there, you know, it started, make started to make real sense to me, where I was going with this, because for many, 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 many years, I felt that these two sides of me were mutually exclusive. They couldn't mix. They couldn't. They couldn't live together. And my experience over the guild over the weekend certainly proved that that was not true. But yeah, please observe the space in the middle between these two pictures is intentionally left empty. There's a void there. That is a play from Dr. Shirley's assignment. I believe it is called My Everything, um, where he clearly stated to us he was going to be looking at the items, particularly. He was going to be looking at the space in between the items. And that's what this space is for. And it's going to be representative of, well, it'll be more representative when it's like 1 o'clock in the morning and I am still grinding out a paper and still looking up, on Google the correct APA format for something and getting mad and frustrated. I can look at the space and I can consider what it is I'm striving for. What am I turning into? What am I developing? What am I going to become? And I can then look at the pictures and the note left with my kids and my wife and realize, who and what I'm doing it for, if just not for myself. So, yeah, here it is. I do apologize. Pardon me. Gosh, I do apologize for the quality of the video. This is the first time I have created a video like this. I do hope you have enjoyed it and found it insightful. Thank you for watching.